I slept with my crush's gay stepbrother to get close to him. I knew I was stupid. There must be a more respectable way to grab your crush's attention than whatever the hell I was doing. Even though I wasn't sure what that could be, I knew there must be some ways to achieve that glorious target. But I was stupid for a reason. I am gay. My ears perked up. What in the world was going on? I was stupid, and that was why I was standing outside the open auditorium doors, not inside of the two guys in the auditorium. It was a very strategic position, I believed. I had overheard August, my hot crush, telling Eric, his stepbrother, that Eric could tell him whatever he wanted to share in the auditorium. I was sitting behind them during the lunch hour, and it was sheer luck on my part that I heard that particular thing. Stupid as I was, I ditched my bunch of people and sneaked after the two stepbrothers, hoping that I'd get to hear something about them, or hopefully August. But luck wasn't on my side. It wasn't August who wanted to open up about the secrets of his life, but Eric, his stepbrother. And it wasn't August who'd muttered those words, but Eric. I bemoaned, then clamped my hand over my mouth in case something stupid came out of it. I would have paid God for August to follow with some similar confession.
"You're what?"
August muttered, not sounding distraught or anything, but amazed. And honestly, I shared that sentiment. Even though I knew I was playing into the offensive stereotypes, Eric didn't really look gay. But then again, August didn't look gay either, and I still prayed in front of my God that he was gay. I am gay, Eric repeated in a rather small voice. I strained my ears to listen to whatever was going on. I mean, I have known for a while, and I thought to tell you the first. I am not sure I am ready to tell our parents.
"They're not going to hate you for it,"
August muttered and then gave a laugh.
"Oh my God, brother. I couldn't have dreamt of this in a million years. Not that I have anything against you, but, well, thanks for telling me."
I couldn't help but smile at that. August was so kind. I heard them mumbling for a few minutes before I heard a jump. I jumped in return and stepped a little away from the door.
"This also means you need to find yourself a boyfriend."
Eric gave a laugh, and I couldn't help but silently admit it was a nice sound. I mean, out of the two, it was August who laughed like a hyena.
"Suggest me some cute boy." "Choose someone from your league. Someone from the sports or, hey, the choir team. We all know half of the team members are gay."
I wondered if he knew about me. I blushed at the thought.
"You know what?" August continued. "If you get a choir boyfriend, it'll be better. Those guys get nasty treatment all the time. Maybe this way you'll change the lives of one of them. You would be able to save at least one of the poor guys."
Eric loudly scoffed, and I wondered if he was as offended as I was.
"Don't say it like that. I am no white savior." "You're white, and you're going to be a savior," August insisted.
Though he was laughing now. He probably didn't mean it all in a serious way.
"Honestly, Eric, it'll be a good idea. It's the safest option. I can go on and list the names if you want."
"Shut up," Eric replied with a small laugh, and I heard the chair scraping across the floor. I knew this was my cue to leave. Whoever I date, I am going to be a very respectful, loving, and trusting boyfriend that has ever walked on this planet. I smiled at the thought.
"Ooh, that's romantic,"
August replied. I left when I heard their footsteps coming close. Sometime later, I know how to get close to that bad boy. I was grinning, and I was sure my best friend's annoyed face meant I was acting like a legit maniac. But honestly, this was the best way. I firmly believed that, even though a small part of me was not sure. This was reason enough to show that this wasn't a very bright idea.
"Please don't say it,"
Lenny begged and rolled on the bed to avoid looking anywhere but at me. "Nothing you plan ever ends well."
"But this is a splendid idea,"
I insisted and sat by his side. He made a face.
"I am not interested. I am going to date Eric."
"Please don't," Lenny replied.
"He is my ticket to August."
"So original," Lenny murmured.
"Look, I would be able to get to know August through him. They have been stepbrothers for the longest time I can remember. I am sure Eric knows everything about August."
I wriggled my eyebrows. Among the facts that August is probably straight, sure.
"Lenny, please, support me."
He shook his head in disapproval. "I fear you'll end up hurting yourself at this point. Or worse, Eric."
"I will not,"
I replied. "I promise." A few days later, Thus began my quest to grab Eric's attention. If anyone thought I would be brave enough to directly approach Eric, they were wrong. I wasn't going to take any chance to jeopardize my chances with August, and that included not leaving a bad impression on either him or his stepbrother. So, I tried to gain his attention by acting as if everything that happened in the next few weeks was sheer coincidence. It was madness what I was doing, but I believed it was important and I had to do it. I was a man on a mission, or at least behaved like one. It started with the washroom, the classic beginning to disappointment. And it was a coincidence, in some ways at least. I was in the washroom when Eric walked into it, and he smelled of sweat. I knew he had just returned from one of his games. He removed his shirt from his sweaty body, hung it over the little hanger over the back of the door, and stepped into one of the stalls. I wondered why he wasn't in the locker room. I was sure they had one, but I wasn't going to complain. In a hurry, and in my sheer stupidity, I grabbed all the napkins and shoved them in my bag. There was none left when Eric walked out of the stall. As he washed his hands, unaware of what I'd done, I looked at him through our reflection in the mirror. I sighed loudly, loud enough that it gained his attention. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice reverberating in the nearly empty washroom. "You've been sighing a lot." I flushed, feeling nervous all of a sudden. This was the first time I was interacting with him, and the first impression was going really well. "I think we are out of napkins." He looked at the dispenser and then sighed. "I guess I will inform the staff then." I nodded, a little too eagerly. He walked out the washroom, and I thought he would return with the staff, but he didn't. The staff returned, putting a new set of napkins, all the while muttering, "I put this very morning," and Eric didn't return. This was bad. Then I noticed his shirt still hung on the little hanger, grabbed it, and hopped like a little rabbit out of that place. Well, it wasn't bad. When I returned to my shared dorm room with Lenny, I threw the unused napkins on his face. "Free napkin party!" "What is wrong with you?" He gave a laugh. But that single incident had set off a pattern. Or at least I'd like to believe that. Before I knew it, I was already planning how I was going to return Eric's shirt to him. If I were lucky enough, I was going to interact with August at the same moment. Lenny said one of the best ways to do that would be to attend one of their games and then interact with Eric along the way. So we did just that. "God, Lenny," I said. "I feel shy." He gave me a look. "You should feel embarrassed and scared. He is going to sock you in the face. Or laugh at you." I glared at Lenny. "You're supposed to be my best friend!" "And your best friend is telling you that this is no way to get a boyfriend. You have no self-respect, Simon." While we were busy hiss-whispering, we didn't notice the football team walking past until it was too late. Eric and August stood in front of us, their handsome faces filled with previous laughter. God, I couldn't help but think. August looked so sexy up close. "Hey," Eric said, "you're the guy from the washroom." I spluttered, and Lenny gave a small giggle. That was no good. "Hi. Did you see anyone taking my shirt?" I forgot it, but when I returned, it wasn't there. I asked the staff member, and he couldn't tell either. "Yeah, that." I grabbed his shirt from my bag. I had, embarrassingly so, washed it with the thought that it looked good. Now I was embarrassed and wanted to dig a hole for myself. "I looked for you, but I couldn't find you, so I brought it with me."
"And you washed it,"
August noted with glittering eyes. My heart stuttered. After 5 years of a one-sided crush, he had finally talked to me. What were the odds? I thought that'd be nice. And it smelled. Apparently that was a funny thing to say. The two brothers laughed, and Eric rubbed a hand on my head. His touch felt electric. Something shifted in me. "Thanks, Simon," I said, blushing a little. "Simon, right. Thanks for this." The smile Eric wore was genuine, but I couldn't really keep my eyes away from August. But then August said something stupid, and I couldn't really defend him from Lenny's harsh criticism later on.
"Maybe you can be Eric's maid," August suggested with a smooth laugh.
Eric said a low, "Hey," and glared at him.
"Sorry, it was a joke."
"See you later, Simon," Eric said and dragged August from there. God, Lenny muttered on our way to our dorm. "August's a moron. Why do you even like that asshole?" "He is not bad," I replied. though I couldn't really pull up a smile after that statement from August. Honestly, Lenny muttered as if he didn't hear what I'd said, I'd rather you end up with Eric than August. He is not for you, even if he's not as bad as he seems. Let's do our assignments, Lenny. I sighed and dropped face first into my bed. Fuck the assignments. I was going to cry. Sometime later, needless to say, all my attempts to gain Eric's respectable attention for the next few weeks were futile. All except one. And to say that it wasn't even because of my effort would be a funny thing to say. Why? Well, because it was an initiative taken by my bullies. I just walked out of my routine choir classes when my bully decided it was the perfect time to ruin my day.
"Oh, you little guy boy,"
he began, and then he kept saying more and more. I was scared, but I was also tired, annoyed, and bored out of my wits. My last few weeks of failed attempts to make my mark on Eric didn't help my mood either, and here was my bully, ready to make it worse. But that didn't mean I had the guts to stand against him. So when he pushed and shoved at me, that moron who was 2 years my senior, I didn't do anything. It probably would have ended in the same old ways if not for, well, the sudden presence of Eric. Leave him alone! God, why don't you fight with people of your kind? Do you want to wrestle with me? Eric growled. Behind him, August was chewing on a piece of gum, his eyes glued on my bully's and at me. After a brief confrontation, I was saved. Thus, August was right when he said Eric might as well be someone's white savior. Are you all right, Simon? Eric softly asked. Before I could answer, August smacked his lips.
I guess the better question is, are you single, Simon? Eric here has been pining for you.
I muttered as the two brothers got busy in a harsh whispering competition. I am single. I was not at all sure why I even said it. Saying that out loud was embarrassing to say the least. No boyfriend, no. The two brothers stopped and looked at me. August asked if I was from the choir team, and I replied that I was. Yes, I am the lead singer. I have noticed you several times, Eric muttered. God, that was heartwarming. If Eric had noticed, there was a good chance that August had too. And well, I honestly needed that after such an embarrassing reintroduction. Has this been happening for a long time? It was Eric's last question before he left with August. He was pointing in the direction my bullies had left, and I could see the furrow between his brows. I knew what he meant, and I felt embarrassed to admit that yes, it had been happening for some time. By the time I stepped foot inside this uni, I was already out, and it was obvious I was gay, according to them. The whole bullying thing wasn't as serious as it was in the school, but I often faced occasional teasing and jeers. Admitting that I was one of the victims was insulting, and Eric seemed to understand that thing. If you want, he said in a very soft voice, I can vouch for you in front of the dean. They need punishment for what they're doing. That's how they'll learn. My eyes immediately found August, and I noticed him nodding along to Eric's words. But for the first time, August seemed like the background character. I had been trying to grab Eric's attention for so long, a couple of weeks now, that I didn't notice August slightly shifting in the very back of my mind. And now when Eric was taking the initiative to help me with one of the most horrifying aspects of my college life, I couldn't help but wonder if I was doing right by Eric. I will let you know, I replied. He again rubbed a hand over my head. It'll take time. Trust me, it'll be good. And then August and he left. By the time I returned home, I was so confused that I couldn't help but hug Lenny and cry in his arms. As he soothed me, I wondered why the hell was I even confused. I didn't have to make a choice. I wanted August and Eric was nice. That was all. But when Lenny suggested that I needed to find another way to make sure I didn't break the good Eric's heart in my stupidity, I decided to take the suggestion. Eric was good, and I didn't want to break his heart. A few days later, but God wasn't on my side. I learned that every action has a consequence in a pretty bad way. I knew I had started a motion by constantly trying to barge into Eric's life. And now there was no going back. I'd spent my last few weeks investing time in gathering Eric's attention, and now the tables had turned. Only Eric was a lot smoother than I was, or could ever aspire to be. On the first day, a few days after that disastrous moment, I found Eric standing outside my classroom, leaning against the wall with his eyes closed. He looked peaceful, and I swear to God, handsome like that. But I wasn't sure if he was there for me. The constant chatter and the excited murmur about seeing a senior outside our class got his attention, and he perked up before his eyes immediately found mine in the crowd. God, talk about romance with the wrong guy. Hey, Eric waved and grabbed my hand to pull me out of the crowd. I didn't see August near him, so I knew he had to come to find me on his own. It was flattering, to say the least. "Hi," I replied, a little shy. "Want to grab lunch?" he asked. I gave a small laugh to hide my nervousness. "Don't you want to do that with August? Brother, is that you two are?" "Oh, well," he clicked his tongue. "I am bored of him, honestly." I gave him a look, and he gave me a small laugh in return. "I am kidding. I just told him that I want to talk to you today over lunch, if you don't mind that." I pushed a few loose fringes behind my ear. When they didn't stay, Eric said, "Hold on," and grabbed a bobby pin from the back of his pocket and hooked it in my hair to keep my hair in place. "Better now?" "Yeah." I was blushing furiously. That was the most romantic thing any man had ever done for me. And I didn't care how pathetic that sounded. It was awesome how he was climbing on my list of protect these people. "So, would you mind grabbing lunch with me?" "No, I would love to." And my emotion was genuine. Sometime later, Eric wanted to ask how I came to realize it was the perfect time to come out to everyone. I already knew why he was asking that, but I asked him nevertheless. I wanted to see if he was going to be sincere. He was, God. He didn't shy away from admitting it, and I was both glad and horrified that he already trusted me enough to share that part about him. Glad because August's brother trusted me, horrified because what did it mean for him to share something so essential about himself with me? If he had taken notice of me over the past few weeks, I was pretty sure it wasn't a very flattering image. "I am gay," he said, a little confidently, though it was true that he was whispering that to me. We were sitting so close I could feel his body heat against me, and each time his breath tickled my nape, I couldn't help but shiver. Was this what bliss looked like, I wondered? "You're the second person I have told this to, Simon." "Thank you for telling me," I replied, a little ashamed now. He smiled at me and then pulled himself a little away from me. For the hottest moment, I wanted to pull him back into me. He was like a human furnace, and I was a touch-starved guy. I needed him. "I have been noticing you for a while," he began. "And Simon, you're absolutely gorgeous. I like when you sing, and I have attended a few of your choir practices. I'm not sure if you ever noticed, though." He gave a small laugh, and I accepted that I hadn't noticed that. "Wasn't it boring?" I asked. One of the major statements that I heard about my choir classes was that it was boring. People complained about it and kept their distance. To hear a football jock mentioning that he attended choir practices was an insane thing. Contrary to popular belief, it was the most peaceful thing. He was smiling, and I knew he was speaking the truth. "I am in my second year, and things can get a little stressful at times, you know? Plus, being a part of the football team is draining as well. So when I first found out about the choir team, I decided to attend their practices. I do not think you were there when I first started it, but then I saw you, and I noticed you." "I am glad." My smile was genuine. He bit his bottom lip and gave a loud sigh. "So Simon, would you tell me something about yourself?" A few days later, "I am dying," I declared to Lenny. "This is so rom-com worthy, oh my god." "Lenny, please stop talking," I moaned and slapped a hand over my forehead. "I am supposed to focus on August, and Eric's stealing all my attention. Lenny, sometimes it's hard to think why I am with Eric at all." "But he's a good guy," Lenny replied. "It's a good thing." "Yeah, but he is a good guy," I emphasized. "And each time I try to bring August into our conversations, I see this furrow between his eyebrows, and I feel like the most deranged person on this planet. But I also cannot not ask him. I want to get to know August. I want to date him." Lenny's expression changed. "Then go and tell him that." "I cannot do that. What if he's straight?" "Exactly," he muttered. "Why do you even like him so much? That August. The only good thing about him is that he plays football." "Yeah, but he's handsome." "And?" Lenny asked. "And?" I repeated and stared up at the ceiling. "And nice. Your previous interactions with him prove otherwise." I huffed and stared silently at the ceiling. "Eric promised he'd come to see my choir practice, and it can get boring, Lenny. Why is he so perfect?" "For you," Lenny replied. "Don't break his heart, Simon. You're better than that." I knew I was better than that. When Eric showed up at the choir practice, he showed up with a burrito. A steak burrito. That man knew what I liked. "I met your friend on my way here," Eric said, "and I asked him if you'd eaten. He said that you always skip your breakfast, and Simon, that's not a good habit." "I don't really get the time," I blushed and took the burrito he gave me. "Thank you so much, Eric. I was feeling hungry." He smiled and looked around the team. "Is your practice done?" Yes, I replied and moaned happily at the taste. It was still warm and delicious. Eric was so kind I could have kissed him right then and there. What are your plans for the day then? Not much, honestly. I have a class at 4. That's all for today. Would you like to, then go out with me? He asked and rubbed his nape. This was the time I should have said no, but with Eric looking so charming and perfect, I couldn't. So when he repeated his question with a, only if you want to, of course, I couldn't help but tell him that I would love to hang out with him. And thus, that was what I cited as our first unofficial date. August was slowly but steadily slipping at the back of my mind. It wasn't like I had gotten over my crush on him, but it didn't seem that interesting anymore. Spending time with Eric seemed perfect. Hearing him laugh seemed like the perfect thing to brighten up my day. It was almost like I was turning romantic, in a way that I wasn't before. Sometime later, after our first unofficial date, things started to look very serious from Eric's side. Now he brought me lunch every morning. Even when I told him that he didn't need to waste his money on me, he didn't stop. He insisted it was the best way to start the day, and I was truly not sure what he really meant by that. Did he mean breakfast? Or did he mean spending time with me? Each thought was enough to stop me in my tracks, only for me to gaze into the horizon in peace. Lenny insisted I was falling in love, and honestly, I felt the same. Even so, I was called stupid for a reason, so I often slipped. In one of the following weeks, I slipped again. This time, Eric caught me. Why do you keep asking about August? He was laughing though, so I was sure he hadn't pulled out any meaning behind it. But my face burned with shame anyway. You two are stepbrothers, right? I stuttered and hoped that my question would sound sensible to his ears. I just wonder how you two are doing. You know how they say stepbrothers do not flock together, or something? Eric gave an innocent laugh, and I knew I was in love. It's good, honestly. When my dad first introduced his mom to me, I was sure I was going to have a bad time with him. But August is a nice guy. We clicked, and now we are best brothers. That's such a good thing, I replied and smiled at him. He looked at me in silence. There was sweat gathered near his brows, and he looked gorgeous beyond comprehension. He would make such a good model with his blonde hair and slightly sun-kissed skin. I wanted to kiss him. Oh God, suddenly I wanted to kiss him to see if he was real. Simon? He began, breaking my chain of thoughts. Yeah? Before he could mutter another word, August barged in on us and huffed loudly. He was shirtless, and his perfect body was on display for everyone to see. He wants to ask if you'd like to go out with him on an official fucking date. Please say yes. This guy's been moping over this for weeks, and I am tired of his pining. I blushed furiously. Eric spluttered beside me and chased away a laughing August from us. When Eric returned, he was blushing too. I could see his red ears and nearly pressed my fingers to see if they were as hot as I knew they must be. So, would you, Simon? He rubbed his nape. I had a lot at stake. I could tell him the truth. I could tell him why I'd approached him. I could inform him of my crush on his brother. But I also didn't want anything to break the fragile relationship we had developed over the weeks. So, I meekly said, yes. And Eric's smile was so bright and handsome that I couldn't help but think I liked seeing him happy. I wanted to see him happy all the time. A few days later, the moment where I chucked out August at the back of my mind came soon after we were done with our date. Eric had his arm wrapped around my waist, and I was giggling as he promised that he would safely drop me off in front of my dorm room. I am going to tell my parents, he declared. You're going to tell them what? I asked, laughing when he rubbed my hair again. God, every single touch he left on my body felt electric. It was something that I'd never felt before. Not even when August first gave me his time of the day. That I am gay, Eric said and looked at me. That I have a boyfriend. Are you my boyfriend, Simon? I gave him a smile, and it was the most natural thing, I think. He gave me a small laugh and pushed me against my dorm room door. I gasped and pressed my hands over his nape, looking at him as if he had hung all the stars and the moon in the sky. It was almost like a whiplash. In the weeks that we had spent together, he had come so close to me that I couldn't imagine separation from him. Who was August? I had no idea. All I knew, and wanted to know, was Eric. The finest man in my life. I like the sound of that, he murmured and leaned in so close that I was so sure he wanted to eat me alive. Can I kiss you, Simon? Please, can I kiss you? And with him being so desperate to kiss me, who was I to say no? Feeling as passionate as he probably felt, I nodded. Before I knew it, we were kissing passionately in my dorm room. My bedroom door left ajar. I was sure Lenny was going to beat the hell out of me for all this stuff, but I didn't care. A few days later, I had thus every right to believe that this was the perfect end, but then over the span of the next few days, two specific things happened. First, I came clean to Eric and told him that I once harbored a crush on his brother, August. Eric seemed to stutter at the confession, and a blunt hurt crossed his face. Worried that I'd hurt him beyond repair, I grabbed his arm before he could leave and promised that I didn't feel that anymore. Eric, I knew I was blabbering. I know how that sounded, and I know you have every right to feel hurt. But I do not feel anything for him, Eric. I promise. I feel everything for you. You make me feel like a madman in love. You make me feel alive. But you kept asking me about him because you liked him. I nodded. I didn't want to lie to him. Yes, that was the reason. But Eric, I cried out before he could slip away from my hands. Please hear me out once. If you do not like my answer, you can leave me. You can hurt me, but please listen to me once. He swallowed and nodded. Speak. Eric, I murmured. Even though I had a crush on your brother, I wanted to come clean about this. I knew you liked me, and I didn't want to hurt your feelings anymore. I wanted us to start with a clean slate. You must know I like you. Only you. Eric looked conflicted, but he sighed some moments later. Eric, I am sorry. I am so sorry. Please give me a chance. When he didn't say anything, I grabbed his hand desperately. My hand was shaking badly, and I knew it wasn't a very flattering look. But at this moment, I wanted him to know me as clearly as he could. Please, give us a chance. And Eric decided he would. Second, then August's birthday rolled in, and I was invited to the party. All of us got drunk, but August got the most drunk. In his drunken state and in a sudden absence of Eric, he dragged me into a corner and kissed me. August kissed me, right at the point where I didn't want anything to do with him. In a way, I was glad I got to know I didn't feel anything for him anymore. But he was drunk, and he kept saying, I am bi, Simon. That shit's so scary. Please let me kiss you. And then I found Eric standing on the other side of the room, 3 glasses of champagne in his hand. I knew what it looked like. I pushed off August and made my way to Eric. Instead of saying anything in return, he placed both the glasses on the table and pushed past me to make his way to August. Without another word, he grabbed his arm and pulled him upstairs, probably to make sure he was safe and sound in his own bedroom. Suddenly, afraid and worried and scared out of my wits, I started crying and ran out of the stepbrother's home into the dead of the night. Eric's house was far from my own, and I had absolutely zero idea about where I was going. And I was drunk. But I couldn't help but keep running. When I woke up the next, someone was slapping my cheeks and I felt warm. I tried to push away the touch, but it was insistent, and I could hear the worry in their tone. I groggily opened my eyes and found Eric hovering over me, his eyes red-rimmed. Oh God. What had I done, I thought to myself. Eric? Oh God, I didn't mean to kiss your brother. I know. Why did you run away? You're running a fever. It was morning. I'd fallen asleep on someone else's lawn. I love you, I said instead. I do not want to hurt you, Eric. I never want to hurt you. Please, trust me. I did not kiss August. I know, baby. He pushed my hair back and grabbed me by my waist. I know. He told me everything. Let's get you somewhere safe, all right? Can you walk? I will pick you up, don't worry. I used to have a crush on him, but I don't have a crush on him anymore. I promise. I grabbed him around his neck and felt delighted at the thought that he was carrying me. I only want you. I was stupid and blind, but now I see clearly. You're the best man I've ever come across, and I want to be the lucky man to spend my days with you, Eric. Forgive me. Please. I started sobbing. Days later, I would cringe at the memory. I have forgiven you, Simon. I do not hold it against you. Before leaving my side so that he could go to his side of the car, he pressed a soft kiss to the corner of my mouth. We'll work on this together, all right? It'll be all right, I promise. And honestly, I trusted him. A few days later, Eric and I were sitting in the small living room watching TV when Lenny walked in on us. We were cuddling, and at the sight of him, I hugged Eric harder. "I swear to God, if you guys do anything again," Eric laughed. "I apologized for that day, Lenny." "I do not, but it's all right." "See," Lenny said and pointed at me, "you're dating a menace." "It's the result of all the nights I had to hear your disgusting partners, Lenny. You deserve it." "And we didn't do anything," Eric pointed out. "Exactly. We didn't do the nasty. We just kissed." Lenny made a face. "Trust me, it was just as bad." He sat on the chair and looked at us. "So you guys are dating?" "Yeah." "Did you tell him about it?" Lenny asked and rolled his eyes. "Yeah, I did," I replied and turned to Eric, a little ashamed again. "He is talking about, August." "Okay, thank you, Lenny. He told me about him." "And you still want to be with him?" he asked with a small smile. "I think everyone makes mistakes sometimes." He pressed a thumb against my nape, and I melted into his touch. "And I think Simon is a good enough boy that he deserves a second chance." Lenny stood up immediately. "I know I am going to be subjected to years of torture from now on. I will make my escape. Please don't do anything here. Simon, you have your bedroom." "Hey!" I chided. When he left, I fully turned to Eric. "You trust me, right?" "I am learning to," he said in a promising tone. And although that was still not a very good answer, I was sure I was ready to earn both his respect and his love in the coming time. "I love you," I told him. He smiled. "I love me too." "Hey!" I laughed, and he laughed along with me. He rolled my fingers between his fingers. "How did it go with the dean?" "He said he is going to look into the matter," I replied. Eric had decided to play on my side, and given his status as the star footballer, the dean had promised to make this an urgent matter. "A few more weeks and I am sure they're going to get suspended." "Good." Eric pulled me into a hug and then kissed me. "Thank you," I said and then smiled up at him. Conclusion. August was bisexual, and he came out to Eric soon after. Then he begged for our help in coming to terms with it. But although we tried to help him, he still ended up dating a girl a couple weeks later. As for Eric and me, well, things are much better now that I've come clean about everything. He is still as kind and as handsome as he has always been. And I am glad he is with me. The end. How did it go between your crush and you? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force and to stay wholesome.